Hello there and welcome to a new pattern tutorial video where this week I want to show you how you can make one of these laptop covers. And as you might see, this one is quite similar to a build that we did last week where it was for tablets and iPad covers. And as I've had some requests, it makes sense also to have a similar one for laptops. So that's what we're doing this week. But in addition, this time I've also included a handle if you want to carry it around. And you can also quite easily add shoulder strips to this if you want to. And in addition, you also have a back pocket where you can put in your charger, mouse, or any other peripherals that you might need. And as always, with that out of the way, I would say let's get going and let's see how we can make one of those. So, as always, we first need to cut all our pieces, and here we got our back pocket, our back side with the flap attached as well. We got our front piece, our front cover, buckle cover, then the long strip where we later attach the handle to, and lastly we also got our 3 pieces for the handle, although no, you won't need this third piece if you don't want to do the handle with additional padding. And we also want to get started with the handle first, and for that what we want to do as a short summary is we take this short piece on the bottom, put the padding on top, and then cover it with the long section. So for this padding, I just took some raw batch tan that I have lying around, which is around, I think, 4 millimeters, and also beveled off the edges a little bit. And you can shape this padding as you want. You can use different thicknesses, whatever you're going for. But then we just glue this here in the middle, and then we'll glue the long strip on top. And then we want to press down the edges, and I definitely recommend using a bone folder for that. And then we can talk after, and I show you how to clean up the edges and sew everything together. Now, after we've glued the 2 pieces together, we can, on the back side, take off any leftover we had, and then we can start punching and sewing. Now, the part we want to do is we will first bevel and burnish only the outside edges here, because we will not be able to reach them later on. Then fold over the outsides towards the bottom here, so we can insert our square ring that we can later attach to our case. And we do that on both sides, and then we can just punch and stitch all around to fixate both the handle pieces and also the hang-ups for the handle. So let's do that. Okay, now that we've got the handle all done, we can continue to our back piece to attach our front cover. And for that, we will first need to bevel and burnish the top side of the front cover here. Then we can glue this one in place. And we will also glue the long strap over here so that we can put through our rings so we can stitch it all together. Now for the next part, we want to attach our long strip so that we have something to attach our handle to. And the way this will work later on is that through these holes in our back piece, these will go through like this. so that we can put our square rings of the handle through here, so that we can attach our handle through this. And because we want to sew it all the way, we also need to make sure we do it in the right order, because later on, when the handle will sit here, underneath here will be quite tough to stitch. So what we're going to do is we will first glue it down in the middle, then stitch this part, and then we can attach our handle, glue it all the way through the rest, and then stitch that up as well. So for that, I've already marked where the holes are and where we need to align this long strip. And what I'm gonna do is first to bevel and burnish the sections over here. You can also bevel and burnish the whole strip if you want, but it will not really be visible because it will be on the underside later. So I will just be doing those strips. And once these are beveled and burnished, we can attach or glue it down in the middle and then punch these holes as well. And then I'll sew these two parts together, and then we can continue to attach the handle and do the outside. So let's do that first. And now I will glue the strip here on the back side. You want to make sure it's facing the right way, so that when we put it through the handle, you have the grained side on the outside, not the flush side. And now we want to stitch only this middle part first. And it's definitely easier to just mark the stitch line here on the back side and then stitch it together. But for me, I know that my stitches always look better on the top side of where I punched them. And so I will go through the extra step to mark our stitch line here on the top. And we can use the holes we already punched as an indicator on where to put the stitch line. So I'll just take my ruler, just roughly mark our 3 millimeters. After we finish stitching all these pieces together, we can take our strip, put it through the holes of the cover, and from here we can put our handle through and then wrap it back around through the hole. Do the same on the other side. And then next we want to glue it down on the outside here as well, and then punch those stitch lines as well and sew them. And then we got our front part covered, and we can continue with the next part. Then next up we want to prepare our front buckle. So for that we're gonna bevel and burnish this square piece, and then we can attach our buckle before we put all of that on our front piece. We can apply glue on this edge and then fold it over and then punch and stitch all across the top seam. Then, after we've stitched the top side, I just use some white glue on our buckle piece, and then we can just glue that in place on our front side. Then for the next part, we want to punch our holes in the corner so that we can form our pocket. And for that, we'll first want to burnish inside these edges, and then we can punch our holes here. Because I will be stitching these corners with a cross stitch, I'm also going to use my round hole punch, because they will look better compared to the diamond chisels, for example. And now we want to angle the corners like this, and then do a cross stitch over both sides, so we can pull them together nice and tight. And I will be doing the actual cross of the cross stitch on the back side, so I will just be having flat stripes on the front, but you can do whichever one you prefer. Then, in the end, you want to pull them together nice and tight. And then what I do is just tie them up on the back side, because back stitching doesn't really work well here. So just do a double knot. And then, as usual, cut off the excess. And you're good to go. Now, before we start pulling the front and the back pieces together, we also want to prepare the back pocket. So for me, I also just added my maker's mark, and then we want to bevel and burnish this top edge, and then we start gluing the back pocket to the back piece as well. Now next up, when we glue the front and back piece together, we want to make sure that the front piece triangles that we have in these corners line up perfectly with the corners of a back piece, so that the gap is as little as possible. And once we've done that, we can start stitching everything up. For me, when I glue this up, I will always start in the corner to make sure they're aligned properly. And what can help when working with contact cement is just put a fabric over the pieces. I want to make sure it doesn't stick yet while I'm working on the other sides. So I just get that first. And then I start with my first corner and start working my way outward. Then, when everything is glued together, we can start marking our stitch line all the way around and then sew everything up. And now, before we get to the corner, because for these stitches I'm using French irons, and with these French irons you usually want your punching hole to be like oriented like this in the corner. But because we have these little triangles coming out here on the sides, if we punch like this, we just pierce both sides of these little triangles unnecessarily, and they might fall apart a bit more later. So this is one of the few instances where I would actually recommend for your corner punch to be oriented or angled this way, so you can punch right through the gap between the two little triangles, so everything comes together more nicely without fraying. Now, with the edges all sewn up, I'm gonna go over and first start sanding all of the edges, including also here our front flap, and then I will tap down the threads. And I usually do it in this order because when you sand the edges, they can start to mushroom a little bit, and if you tap down the threads after, you can also get rid of some of the mushrooming, so it's also then easier to bevel the edges. And that's also exactly what we're going to do after. Then we're just going to bevel and burnish all the way around, including the front cover. And then we just need to attach our buckle and we're good to go. So let's go on with that and go towards the finish line. And there you have it. Now we're all done. Just gotta put our laptop back in. And see, it has a perfect fit. Close up our bag. And if you want to, of course, you can also use the back pocket to put in your charger, peripherals, or anything else you might need. So I hope you enjoyed the pattern. This was, at least for me, super fun to build. If you want to do it yourself, check out the pattern on my store. And as usual, if you liked the video, I would be very happy for a like. And consider subscribing if you want to see more of them. And with that, see you next time.